to Book 101 review. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Absolutely, Lucas. I won't go too far back in my history, but I'm a licensed physical therapist assistant, and I found that profession after being in the traditional corporate world. I found fitness after growing up with an identity that was fatty Patty and really didn't know how to get myself healthy. But when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I found a way to lose some weight. But it wasn't until I found a certain style of strength training, actually, while I was in physical therapy school, that really changed my mindset, my body, my confidence. And so, what happens when you find something that changes you so profoundly? You want to share it with the world. So, I ventured into physical therapy, worked in outpatient orthopedics, inpatient neurological rehab, and then found myself helping my patients through personal training and made a decision and a big leap of faith about 14 years ago to open up a brick and mortar. And that is Rock Solid Fitness. And we have trademarked the high intensity safe strength training program. And that's what we do. We get people healthy, we empower them and challenge them in only 25 minutes twice a week.
Miss Patty Durell, thank you so much for empowering the world through your rock solid fitness. And today let's talk about redefining strength, what the woman really need after 40s. How has your personal definition of strength evolved since turning 40?
Yes, I would say I'm fortunate to have found strength training before that time. But as I aged and I see other people age into their 40s, especially women, what's most common right now is we hear women at a young age being diagnosed with osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis, a bone disease that makes our bones a little brittle and maybe more susceptible to fractures. So, what's the best thing for osteopenia or building bone, in my opinion, is weight bearing or strength training, where every time your muscles are pulling on your bones, they're laying down more bone. So, not to mention the hormone changes that women start to go through in their early 40s, the psychological changes that we go through as we've built our family, built our career, and now we've kind of lost ourselves in the process of not knowing who we are or not knowing what we're capable of because we've been taking care of everything else and everyone else in the process.
And why do traditional markers of strength like endurance, self sacrifice often fail women in the midlife?
Yeah, I think women set the bar high for themselves. I think that, sometimes we're not looking at the right markers for our health. We're not sure where to turn. Some of our symptoms might be ignored or sloughed off onto other um, hypotheses. And we're not focusing on maybe preventative care and we're focusing more on reactive care. So I'm all about trying to find women early on in their development to try to help them create healthy habits so that they can take care of themselves. And I think the most underlying habit that we don't know or don't learn about is self love and self compassion. And so when we're not giving ourselves self love or self compassion, it's hard to give it to others. And we often find ourselves lost in midlife, not knowing really who we are anymore or what our purpose is. And purpose is very important. So, breeding a good environment of self health and self care helps everyone around us be healthier and happier and more joyful. But it does start with from within, Daniel, like everything.
Happier indeed. And Miss Patty, what societal myth about aging women most need to be dismantled?
Yes, I think aging women, the myth around aging women is that we're less than, we're not as strong as we could be. We've already, the peak of our life is over. And I think that's not true. I think we can have a peak of our life no matter where we are in our life, provided we're taking care of ourselves. We can really have the most robust, abundant life as we age if we're doing all the right things. We can as we age, we have the privilege, hopefully, of a little more time, a little more resources, and so that we can put that time and that resource to use and live an adventurous, joyful, active life. And I think that that's a big myth that women have with them is that as we age, we're just going to be um, low energy, not able to do some of the things we used to do. And while that might be slightly true, it doesn't need to be the story, it doesn't need to be the narrative.
Very well said, Miss Patty. Very well said. And let's talk about the physical well being. What are the most underrated health priorities for women 40 plus and beyond?
Yeah, that's a great question, Daniel. I think oftentimes we're not getting sleep. First, sleep is so important for us. And some of us wear a lack of sleep as a badge of honor almost. Like I worked so hard. I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. But what we don't understand is that sleep is the time that our body really rests, it digests, and it resets, and it cleans all of the toxins out of our body. Our body is an amazing organism that takes care of itself if we allow it to. And when we're not getting rest, we're not able to show up and do all of the other things that are physically important. So, daily activity is huge. We are not meant to sit, we're meant to move. And some of us sit for a long time. So, getting activity at least 30 minutes every day as a minimum is such a priority. And then make sure that you're strength training hard with big effort, but in a very safe manner so that you are building bone, you are creating more cognitive executive functions in your brain. You're getting good, healthy hormones that are released every time those muscles are contracted and squeezed. So many great benefits happen from movement and exercise. But if you're not getting your sleep, you're not going to be able to perform because you're going to be in an environment of toxicity. And of course, then I have to mention eating good, nutritious food and getting a lot of water is also very important for this human organism that we get to live in.
Well, interesting indeed, Miss Patty. And why is rest just important as hustle over 40?
Yeah, I think as we age, rest becomes more important, but we don't need as much rest as we needed in the. I shouldn't say rest, sleep. Your question was rest, so let me address rest. Rest is important to take a break from things that are really intense in your life. At Rock Solid Fitness, we work out intensely, although it's safe. And so when your organism goes through an intense anything, an intense emotional experience, an intense physical experience, it creates a stress response on the body. And while some stress is good for our body, too much stress is not good for our body, right? We have eustress, which is enough stress that makes us healthier and better, but distress comes from too much stress. And since we only get one stress bucket and the body can't recognize whether stress is coming from a hard workout, a hard day at work, a hard day with the family, lack of sleep, a disease, it doesn't know the difference. There's just one stress bucket. You have to empty that stress bucket before you can start to fill it up again. And if we're not resting, and doing all the things that this organism needs, then we're not setting this organism up for success. And we will wind up getting disease. It will show up in different ways, whether it's arthritis or some, illness that we're not expecting. Cancer all diseases start with stress, which leads to inflammation. And if you're not letting that inflammation go away, then it's going to wind up being a disease somewhere in your life. And how do I know
That
that? Because it's happened to me building my business.
Yes, definitely. And what boundaries become non negotiable after 40, and how do we use them to support us?
I think those boundaries are, for me, it's the four keys to optimal health. And you have to create those boundaries by creating a vision of yourself that in your future that you want to be. If you're not happy where you are right now, if you don't do something today to change your future, then you're going to be right where you are today. And I think a lot of people miss that. So for me, creating boundaries around those four keys, which are exercise and movement, right? Getting that movement, like we talked about earlier, at least 30 minutes a day, making sure you're doing proper strength training at least 2 times a week, and then making sure that you're getting the rest that you need from that activity, but also the sleep that you need. So we research has shown that if you don't get enough sleep, which is a minimum of 6 hours in a day in a 24-hour time cycle, then you're not actually having the opportunity to even clear your brain out of the plaque that will build up in there. And that also has been possibly linked to diseases like Alzheimer's, just not getting enough sleep. So it's, exercise and activity, it's sleep and rest, it's then eating properly, right? And when I say eating, it's whole and nutritious foods, making sure you know the right amount of calories that this organism needs to be in its optimal health, making sure you're getting enough fruits and vegetables and fiber and healthy proteins and good healthy carbohydrates and fats. Like, it seems so simple, but it's so hard for us to do. And I think the last part, which is maybe the most important part, is managing your stress or having good relationships, especially the one with yourself. I think, again, most of us have this little conversation in our head going on that isn't always positive. I kind of call it the itty bitty shitty committee sometimes. It shows up and it talks to us in a negative way. And if we're not able to control our mind and make sure that we have a good relationship with us, then we can't have good relationships with others. And it's a community that helps us through in life. It's, I always say, it's not about your net worth, it's about your network. What kind of community do you belong to, so that when you're having a tough day, you can reach out to somebody who understands and can help you through those tough times. So self-compassion, self-love, community would be that last key that I think we have to create really strong boundaries around. And the way I tell people to do that for themselves is to create that future vision of yourself. What do you want to be doing? What do you look like physically? Where are you in your life? Write it down, write those goals down, and then extrapolate out what you need to do to reach those goals. And then make a no matter what commitment. Like for me, it is I will get out in nature every day, no matter what, whether it's raining, there's a hurricane out there, I'm going to get out in nature because I need that nature for me to feel good and joyful and healthy. So write down your non-negotiables and then read them and stick to them and make them no matter what commitments, because you are worth it. And whatever you feed yourself is what you're going to feed to others.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Patty, how can women navigate the invisibility stereotype that often comes with aging?
Um, can you repeat that question, Daniel? I'm sorry.
No worries. How can women navigate the invisibility stereotype that often comes with aging?
Yes, that I was just having a conversation with someone about that. How, as especially, I feel like here in America, and I feel almost badly saying that because it's my country that I love so much, but we we don't look at aging as wisdom and as someone we can learn from and mentorship. So when we're not looking at that in others as we age, we don't see that in ourselves. So I think the most important thing to do is to connect with elderly people. I have an affinity for elderly people because I feel like they have so much to offer and so much to teach me. They've been through it all. And I think when you hold people who are your elder on a pedestal or look to them as mentors, you'll see that in yourself as you age and you won't become so invisible. and also being connected to community, making sure that you're giving so that you can receive. Um, if you're not in your community making a difference for people around you, it's not going to make a difference for you too. I think when you give, you receive. So I love that you brought this up because being invisible means that you feel alone. It means that you feel that you're not worthy or you don't matter. And every single human being matters and is worthy and has something to offer. So I think it comes back to that self love and self compassion and knowing that you are a worthy person and you have a lot to offer the world. Everyone has a superpower. You just need to tap into that and discover it and make that your purpose. Purpose is what keeps us going and what keeps us visible. Even as we age, I have friends in their 90s who are still working full time or volunteering all over the place. And they're not invisible at all. They're so visible because they stay connected to community and they still have their purpose.
Yes, indeed. I do have a superpower.
You
Just
do.
put in yourself, people, to empower yourself. Miss Patty, as a CEO and founder, what are your short term and long term goals?
To empower and challenge people to be their best. That's always my short term and long term goal. I'm in the process of writing a book right now called The Four Keys to Optimal Health. So I'm excited to be able to share that with the masses because I think, I don't want to keep that to myself. I want to help as many people as I can and just be a healthy, happy human that spreads love. I think that's my long term goal.
Spread love for sure. And good luck to your goals, Miss Patty, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a CEO and founder like you?
My advice would be to make sure that you are living your passion, that what you're doing is in alignment with your passion and purpose, and to define what the vision is that you have for your company. And I would also recommend that you read the book Traction and adopt the EOS concept of managing that business. I was a technician when I started my business and didn't really know how to run a business, but that system has helped me be successful and stay in business for the past 14 years. Systems work. They're proven. So I love that book by Gene, uh, Gino Wickman. And I would also say just never give up. If I think that sometimes the difference between a business that stays in business and goes out of business is the one that can't discern and solve issues, and the CEO or the founder will give up.
Never give up. Try and try and try until you succeed. What amazing advice, Miss Patty. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yes, so I recommended Traction. The Untethered Soul is a beautiful personal self help book that I would also recommend. If you're a solopreneur, I think the first book that kind of made sense to me as I was navigating was The E Myth by Michael Gerber. That was a very fascinating book to kind of open my eyes up to what was happening in my own personal journey. There's so, gosh, Atomic Habits. I am such an avid reader. I could give you a huge list of books that I think are beneficial. But those are three great books to start with, I would say.
Thank you for that recommended books, Miss Patty. And let's talk about the legacy and bold living. How does redefine strength help women pursue long delayed dreams?
Ooh, that's a fascinating question. Will you repeat that for me, Daniel?
Sure. How does redefine strength help women pursue long delayed dreams?
How
Just like
does
when you put in your business.
um I would say that when you overcome barriers. When you think that you can't do something in the gym, physical strength, you and then you overcome that barrier. It creates a resiliency not only in the human organism but also in the brain, so that you start to understand that failure is success. That if I can't do something today, but if I stick to it, I'll be able to do it tomorrow or the next day or next week or next month. So taking on the challenge, not backing down from a challenge, and knowing that if you fail today or you're not successful today, you will be if you stick with it. Like Failing Forward, another great book, but failing forward. If you are not failing, you are not learning, you are not growing. And failure isn't a bad word, it's a great word. So I think that can create a lot of mental strength that helps us through those times, Daniel.
Very well said, Miss Patty. Very well said. What's one societal rule about aging you believe women should break?
That we're not supposed to strength train as we get older, that we're not strong individuals, that we don't belong in the gym, that we're always supposed to be ladylike. And there's nothing ladylike when it comes to strength training. So you're not going to, get the benefits if you're not willing to be uncomfortable. If it doesn't challenge you, it's not going to change you. Yeah.
Well, Miss Patty, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101 and Law 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. And please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. And Miss Patty, what's one small step listeners or viewers can take today to honor their worth?
Write a list of all of your accomplishments that you've done over the years. Dig deep, small, large. Think of the challenges you've been through, the things that you never thought you could get through, and that you did get through them. Write them down and really sit with yourself and honor yourself for the good work that you've already done. And know that as those challenges come up again in the future, even though they're not the same, you're going to get through it. We all do. There's always enough, I think, and to love yourself first. I think that would be my message.
Yes, I love myself, and I will try and try and try until we succeed, just like Miss Patty. Miss Patty Durell, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, and we truly inspired. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, and I love the work you're doing. So, yes, you can visit us at rocksolidfitnessfl.com. That's rocksolidfitnessfl.com. And we have a YouTube channel with a lot of information on how you can take care of yourself, inspirational messages, as well as exercises and how to do them properly. So, that would be a great way for you to help yourself if you're interested.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Patty Durell, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering women will redefining the strength, more and more empowering business to come. So, Miss Patty, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.